Hello friends, I hope you are all having a great time at home, that you're still learning, and that you're not going too crazy with your families. Today I decided that I wanted to read a book to you, one of my favorites. It's called Harriet, You'll Drive Me Wild by Mem Fox, illustrated by Marla Frazee. It's just about a little girl who is just a little too troublesome, always getting herself into a situation, and a mom who loves her very troublesome daughter very much but is having a hard time dealing with it. I think you guys will like it a lot. So without further ado, let's get to reading. Harriet, You'll Drive Me Wild, written by Mem Fox and illustrated by Marla Frazee. Harriet Harris was a pesky child. She didn't mean to be, she just was. One morning at breakfast, she knocked over a glass of juice, just like that. Her mother didn't like to yell, so instead she said, "Harriet, my darling child." "I'm sorry," said Harriet, and she was. At snack time, she dribbled jam all over her jeans, just like that. Her mother didn't like to yell, so instead she said, "Harriet, my darling child. Harriet, you'll drive me wild." "I'm sorry," said Harriet, and she was. Before lunch, when Harriet was painting a picture, she dripped paint onto the carpet, just like that. Her mother didn't like to yell, so instead she said, "Harriet, my darling child. Harriet, you'll drive me wild. Harriet, sweetheart, what are we to do?" "I'm sorry," said Harriet, and she was. At lunch, Harriet slid off her chair, and the tablecloth came with her, just like that. Her mother didn't like to yell, so instead she said, "Harriet, my darling child. Harriet, you'll drive me wild. Harriet, sweetheart, what are we to do? Harriet Harris, I'm talking to you." "I'm sorry," said Harriet, and she was. Later that afternoon, when Harriet was meant to be napping, she ripped open a pillow, just like that. 1,000 feathers flew in every direction. And then there was a terrible silence. Harriet's mother, who did not like to yell, began to yell. She yelled and yelled and yelled. "I'm sorry," Harriet cried. "I'm really, really sorry." Her mother took a deep breath. "I know you are," she said, hugging Harriet tight. "I'm sorry, too. I shouldn't have yelled, and I wish I hadn't. But sometimes it happens. Just like that." "Big mess," said Harriet. "A very big mess," said her mother, and she started to laugh. And they laughed and laughed and laughed and went on laughing as they picked up the feathers together. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to that as much as I enjoyed reading it to you. Whenever we were reading the story, we got to follow along with Harriet through all of her ups and downs, spilling paint and jam, ripping up pillows, and pushing her mother's buttons until she was no longer patient. Hopefully, we aren't doing that at home, but if we are, just know that our parents love us, and just like Harriet, sometimes it happens, just like that. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll be back again soon to read you another story.